Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ludicrous League Podcast, the show where people talk ponies, and ponies are all that matter. Today we are reviewing Season 8, Episode 9, the Non-Compete Clause. Is it not or not? I don't even remember. And today I am welcomed by the usual crew. We have Winter Storm, say hello.
Hey.
And Lorah.
Hello.
Dibs hopefully will join us. That's what I said last time, but hopefully she'll get on. Anyway, so for those that are new to this, basically we each go one at a time saying all of our thoughts on the episode, and then at the end we give a rating out of 10. We go in alphabetical order, so I go first. And, slightly better than the last time, but not great. Just,
Right.
I mean, it wasn't as horrible as the last one, but I had more thoughts on this one, whereas the last one I was just bored. But, you know, it's still not great. I guess on the pro side of things, the comedy was okay, and it kind of made up for the bad taste of the episode. It wasn't substantial, but it was enough for me to not be completely bored out of my mind. It was better than the comedy in, the previous episode, as in there was practically none, so that's why I hated it, apart from other reasons, but this had some good moments. I liked the 180 that they did, because, normally you stay on track all the way through the end of the episode, but then they just took it and completely turned it on its head, and I can see why most people might find that annoying. I found it interesting. Because I don't feel like we get that a lot in episodes. There's a few that I think could do that, but this one was the most obvious one. Whereas, they went from being total competing to just the complete opposite. Halfway through the third of the way.
We are good pawns.
Yeah, I kind of liked that. That was kind of unexpected, and I liked that little surprise factor that was there. I guess I'll do some cons in case I go over too many pros.
Anything else?
Cons, out of the two, RD, I think, was the most intolerable and was the most irritating. Because, I mean, RD's known for being competitive, but she was just totally unbearable. Applejack was still intolerable, but not nearly as bad as RD, in my opinion. I felt like RD was way more just, what's the word?
Me.
She just gave no shits about, I mean, neither of them really cared about the lesson's quality and were more about the trophy, but she was, totally, I guess you could compare it to Applejack having some peripheral vision and Rainbow Dash just being totally staring down the tube. She was, definitely the more focused on that, but still Applejack was there as well. I really think that out of the two, RD was the most oblivious and the most obnoxious. Surprising, right? Because we haven't seen RD like that. I didn't like the ending. At all. The students at the end, they were oblivious. They were like, yeah, we learned so much from their they totally acted this way, and it helped us learn to have us figure out what we should do by them doing what we shouldn't do. It was totally planned. No, it wasn't. They were dicks the whole time. It just, and the fact that they didn't get that, especially considering how intelligent these kids are and how well behaved they are, and they just that one went completely over their head. That bugged me. That really bugged me. I feel like that they should have noticed that, and it seemed like they did notice that throughout the whole episode, and then suddenly we got.
I think they're just trying to cover their teachers' asses.
I hope that's what it was, because it honestly looked like that they were completely oblivious, and I didn't like that, given how they are very smart kids. And, adding on to how the ending was bad, it seemed like at the end, AJ and RD learned absolutely nothing, because they just went right back into their arguing. and that wasn't good either. Normally, when you learn something at the end of that whole escapade, but it really didn't look like they learned. Even though they specifically said that they learned something while they were in that ball cage dangling in front of the piranhas or above the piranhas. And then it's just like at the end, it seemed like they didn't give a single shit, and they just went right back into their. I hate episodes that make it seem like that the characters learn nothing. Super Speedy being the primary example there. I really don't like when that happens. It just doesn't sit right. It kind of just feels like I wasted 30 minutes of my life when episodes leave that. It wasn't as blatant in this one as it was in Super Speedy, but it still kind of gave me that vibe at the end there. I mean, the students learned something, which was great, but it's bad when the students learn more than the professors. That's not good.
Actually have it stick, it seems.
Yeah. So, that's all I'll say on that. I'll pass the rock to Ann.
I didn't have that many thoughts other than Twilight stating the absolute obvious of, didn't you learn about being competitive with each other?
Yeah, she did call them out.
I didn't gripe about that just because it goes back to that concept of it takes more than one time to learn a lesson.
But yeah, we've seen this more than once.
We've seen Fluttershy.
You've seen this at
We've seen Fluttershy deal with that kind of lesson more than once, though. Probably the most out of everybody. She didn't catch on until, like, way later. So I kind of forgave it this time, because, yeah, we've seen it a few times, but so have we seen a lot of other things.
No, we've seen these two compete with each other almost as many times since day one. And almost as many times as we've seen Fluttershy with her shyness.
Yeah.
Except angry Fluttershy is scary Flutters.
I just feel like it's slightly it's not as forgivable as the Fluttershy thing, but it's still a little bit forgivable, given that it's because I believe in that idea of like having to learn things more than once, and at this late in the game, it's not as great, but it still, I think, is a little bit valid, if in my personal opinion. I just think it was not something too huge.
It's like, honestly, I think it's the barest amount acceptable in that statement. I still think they should have really learned, especially by the end of this episode, instead of just going back and arguing.
Yeah.
It just didn't end right at all. But that's pretty much my only thought about the entire thing.
Yep, that ending really did not work at all. For shame. So that's all you got there?
Yep.
Alright, we will pass it to Winter then.
Okay. So, I did find a few funny humor things in this. One being, yes, how Twilight obviously called them out. That was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
But another thing is, oh my gosh, I forget the change thing's name. Ugh.
I know literally none of the students' names. It's okay.
Anyway. Her turning into the fish, that was actually like a highlight, because it was like
Boom,
chomp,
chomp. Yeah, that was pretty funny to scare the crap out of them while they're already in a life or death situation. I love it.
I mean, technically they deserved it.
They did. They absolutely did.
And let's see, what else? They also really believe that the students were just trying to cover their teachers' butts from the headmaster Twilight.
I still think that they were just completely oblivious in their tactics. And I kind of hope that's not the case. Since it looked like they had picked up on it the whole time. But, you know, if it was them covering their butts, then yeah, that would be funny.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, are you guys either that oblivious or... Yeah, it's pretty bad when the teachers have to rely on the students to cover their ass.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, nah, teachers.
Extremely bad.
That's like what you have to
been
do.
In a situation like that.
That's like what you have to do if your teacher is like really fun and great, but the principal's like, you need to be serious. Then all the students like gang up on him, like, no, he's great, let him stay, don't let him do it.
Yeah, like half a Lake City.
Well, in this case, it was like legitimately they were bad, but the students, I guess, wanted to keep them anyway, since the end result was they learned something. Again, still think that it was just obliviousness, but...
Agree.
You never know.
But as far as gripes go, it's like, yeah, they should have learned this lesson by now, but at the same time, it's always hilarious to watch those two bicker. It's like, I can see how those two ended up being shipped. Those two are always fighting.
I just think, I honestly don't like their banter at all, or their competitiveness. It just gets irritating. Especially RD. It really didn't... I don't like episodes like that where they're just constantly at each other's throats. It really gets irritating.
I personally don't mind episodes like that because I can relate to it. Personally relate.
Well, that's good. It's nice to relate to your episodes. The more you relate to them, the better they'll be.
At the same time, it's just like, oh, why do I have to relate to this? It's like a mixed feeling.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I just, I don't know. I didn't sit well with me. It kind of was like that for me with some friends, but you know, it's just sort of like a past, you know, bury that in the sand kind of thing. Why am I'm pointing my mouth way away from my microphone? I should be talking right into it,
well,
like a normal
you're
person.
able to hear you just fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So keep turning my head like 180 degrees for some reason.
I don't know, maybe you're trying to be an owl.
Maybe. I'm tired, so that's probably not a good sign. Any other things you wanted to contribute?
I really am like just on the fence about this episode. Like, I like it, but at the same time, I'm annoyed by it because I relate. From both ends.
Like, competition between siblings is common. Competition between friends, that depends on the interests
nasty.
and the hobbies of and the tightness of the relationship between the friends. I think, like, if you're super close, then yeah, competing can be a thing that you have to deal with. But normally that's with like younger friends, like teen friends or childhood friends. When you're grown mares, competition seems like you would want to leave that behind you. But then again, we had...
doesn't really happen.
We had this episode, and we had the season 1 episode. Fall Other Friends, was it called? I forget what it was called. What was the one where they were like running to the leaves or whatever? I forget.
Oh yeah, and where Twilight beat all of them.
Yeah, that was the main... I
remember the episode you're talking about.
I feel like that was the only other episode where they were seriously competing. Other times, it's just, if there's been any other interactions like that between them, it's been small, and it's not like what the whole episode revolves around. So, like, this is the first time, I think, in, like, all of the series that we've had an episode purely dedicated to these guys competing with each other. I should think that there was at least a few others, but I don't think
It's
there
been a
were.
long time.
Off the top of my head, I really don't think there were any more than that. But so that's why I felt like it was more forgivable that they didn't that they had to repeat it, because it's only happened substantially like one time. I think they've had their small moments, but like the only other time the whole thing between them was a whole 25 minutes was in season 1, I think. So that's why I feel like it was more forgivable this time that they had to repeat the lesson.
Yeah.
As opposed to Fluttershy, where it's like, oh, and even then, I am okay with the fact that they repeat that kind of assertiveness lesson with Fluttershy, because it takes more. You have to repeat that. You don't learn it the first time it happens. And because we don't get a lot of AJRD constant competing through a whole episode's worth, it's been so long since we've had this again. So it's a little more forgivable that they actually had to go through this again, but it just felt like it could have been done maybe a little better, because they were endangering the students.
I've also got to make after you.
Sorry, I didn't get that. What?
Yeah, I've got one point I'm going to make after you're done.
I've pretty much rambled. That's my big ramble point. Go ahead and add yours in.
When Twilight was first getting on their arses about the competition thing, and they were playing along like, yeah, we're getting along just great, and blah, blah, blah.
Pretty much.
I feel like Twilight should have picked that up.
Like the Stone King during that.
I feel like Twilight should have called their bluff.
She kind of did.
Yeah, she did, and then let them carry on anyway. Like, Twilight, you're smarter than this.
I think she's just like, there's no getting through these two. They're going to have to learn it the hard way.
I hope that was the case. Yeah, I hope that was her case. I mean, because she did smirk at the end when she was saying, so you guys really were just competing the whole time, weren't you? She had that look on her face like she knew that was going to happen by letting them have a take 2 at this. Yep. So I hope it was pre-planned, that she just knew this was going to happen and that they were going to learn by themselves.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Because that would make her pretty sly. I'd be like, yes, you slick purple pone, you. That would make me love her so much more. She's the best pony.
Not best pony.
Yeah. So, any other additional thoughts we want to throw in?
Not really.
I guess the moral itself was good, but it's just repeated, so there's not much there to talk about.
Hey, I just had a random thought. Introduce Twilight to D&D.
Don't do that. Y'all want us to frickin' die?
Maybe.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to ratings then. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It was slightly better than the last one, which I think was a 4. Still not great though. Honestly, I feel I wasn't bored like I was in the last one. I was just flat out not into the last one. But this one, it was okay.
It had its moments.
I've seen a lot of people hate this. Like, so there are some people that are like, "This is the worst episode of the season by far." Did you see the last one?
Oh yeah, that was the other episode.
I feel like that, honestly, if I had to give one of these the worst episode of the season award, I'd give it to the Parent Map. I really was so bored with that. I hate it. Sheer boredom alone made me hate that more. But there were other reasons, obviously. Check out that last podcast if you want to hear us rant about that. Shortest podcast ever, because conclusion was we all hated it. This one was...
Oh, no, it's bad. I could watch a court jury and be more entertained in that than I was that episode.
God. But this one was...
And I know this for a fact, because I have watched a court jury.
Really? Never had the interest to do that, but yeah, I feel like this one was...
I need to watch the band.
This one was better, but only a point better. It wasn't, like, substantially better, so yeah, I give it a 5. TBH. So still bad, but not nearly as bad. And what about your rating out of 10?
Probably a 4. It's just a little bit better, but it should have been. It should have been better executed.
Yeah, I agree. Winter?
Go for it, Winter.
Alright, I'm just really on the fence about this one. So it's just like, I'm stuck at around a 3 or a 5. Not a 4, but just like a 3 or a 5.
So some kind of middle ground.
3.5.
3.5. If it ain't a 4, it's a 3.5. We do half points.
Yeah.
So if you want to throw in half points, you can do literally any point in between. Like 3.1, 3.3. Like
I give it pi.
We don't discriminate. Okay, 3.1. Then we'll round it. All right. Well, that sums it up for this episode. Hopefully, I really want to believe that this season's going to go uphill. And we're just going to get like a sort of a U curve here where it starts great, gets shit, and then becomes great again. I want to believe that. This is already a step up. Not a huge one, but it's definitely better than the last one. So let's hope that. I hear that the next one is good, because I believe the next one is a Hearts and Hooves Day one about Big Mac and Sugar Bell. So hopefully that will be fun AF, and we'll take a huge leap from this kind of tar pile that tar pit that we're stuck in right now. But yeah, that sums it up for this episode. Looks like Dibs couldn't make it this time again. Hopefully we can get her in for the tail end of the season. I'd like for all 4 of us to be able to review the last episode of the season, but that's not for a while, so we'll get there. But yeah, tune in next time when we talk about episode 10, which I think is the Hearts and Hooves Day one, so that will be fun, hopefully. Hopefully it'll turn out good. And we will see you all next time. Bye!
Bye!